All right. Thanks, Larry, for that introduction. That was very kind. And thanks to Fifth Third Bank for sponsoring this program here this morning. Special thanks to Jane Clark and the team at the Michigan West Coast Chamber of Commerce. Certainly for the invitation and the opportunity here to speak today. But as you look around the room, once again, we have 250 plus people participating in an early morning breakfast that we all know is going to be, other than maybe the speaker, the event itself will be very strong. We know that because this chamber staff each and every month pulls together top-notch events. If you've ever planned a family reunion, if you've ever had a graduation, you know how stressful planning an event can be, but our chamber staff does it flawlessly each and every time. I think it's important we don't take that for granted. It's easy for us to attend because we know it's going to go smoothly. And so I think as we start this new fall program of Early Bird Breakfast, please help me in thanking and congratulating a job well done with the chamber. Now I have to say, before I get started with the formal remarks, I'm going to go off script a little bit. I've had a series of text messages this morning, a lot of them with sort of "good it done," "attaboy," "way to go," "good luck," and I just want to read a couple to you. All right, so, Sean, I won't read yours. Bring your A game to breakfast. Good luck this morning. You will do great. Happy 10th anniversary. Happy 10 years of success. Good luck this morning. Good luck this morning. And then somebody who read the Sentinel story on Sunday writes, I had to brush my teeth twice on Sunday, once when I woke up and once after I read the newspaper. So, with friends like those, I don't know what to do. But this has been a great 10 years for Lakeshore Advantage and for our community as a whole. This has been an opportunity for us here to celebrate this morning 10 years of economic success. We've had some highs, we've had some lows. Certainly we've suffered through the Great Recession like everybody else, but unlike everybody else, we've been able to recover and rebound far faster than the rest of the country. It's certainly far faster than the rest of the state. And so today, we're going to stop and celebrate a bit and celebrate 10 years of success and how we all together have accomplished this. Larry was very kind in the introduction, and it's certainly been a pleasure and a privilege to lead Lakeshore Advantage these last 10 years. But it's far more than me. It's far more than our staff. It's everybody here in this room. It's hundreds of other people who've answered the call to action over this past 10 years to help make our community better, and that's what we're here to celebrate today. It's easy to get caught up in the daily grind and get caught up on our list of things to do, so today let's celebrate. Let's take a moment and reflect back on the past 10 years. So if you would, help me think through back to 2003. Let's go back to the beginning. Think back to 2003 and the economy that we faced at that time. Just take yourself back. We were all maybe 10 pounds lighter. My hair was darker and had more of it. We've all changed personally, but our community has changed as well. 10 years ago, we had a number of major economic shocks that were hitting our community all at the same time. We had just witnessed the dot-com bust and how that impacted our furniture industry in a profound way. In almost an instant, we had some of our major employers, Hart & Cooley, Pfizer, Bats, Lifesavers, almost simultaneously shut their doors and lay off hundreds and thousands of people. Something we hadn't seen really in 30, 40 years. We also got caught up in that movement of the time where the auto industry was consolidating its supply chain, and we saw some of our local homegrown companies sold off to bigger entities. And we didn't know quite what that meant. We also didn't quite know if that was the end or if there was more to come, if we'd lose more of our locally owned firms. Lots of change, lots of dramatic change in an instant that put everybody, frankly, back on their heels. Many of people saying, oh my goodness, what's next? What could possibly happen next? Thankfully, for our community, we had another group of leaders step forward, as is often the case here, and say, what's next? What's next? What can we do in a positive, forward-looking way? They wanted to take on that challenge. And so what started as a small group of leaders quickly rounded out to soon hundreds of people, 250 plus people that began to really wrestle with that question. What's next for our economy? How do we drive our economy forward? We've seen what happens if we sit back and take these economic punches, but what are we going to do to punch back? What are we going to do differently moving forward? And that's how Lakeshore Advantage became to be. August 3rd, 2003, what started off as a pretty small effort of a small group of people grew into a large group of people, and on August 3rd, 2003, the Articles of Incorporation were formed, or were filed, and Lakeshore Advantage was started. It was a great moment. It was a great moment where people rallied together and formed a new entity, brought the Holland and Zeeland communities together around an economy that I think most of us driving around would see as hyper-connected, and this organization helped bring that together. Those same leaders then did what every new organization does. They set about creating a strategic plan, putting together the plan of action for this new entity, this new organization. And they took their time, did their homework, and put together what I think is ultimately a very elegant design to an original plan for an organization, a plan that stood the test of time. And it's really maybe less of a strategic plan and more of guiding principles. You know, sort of how is this organization going to function? What are the key guiding principles for the organization that will last, will have a lasting impact? Those four: support local business, grow entrepreneurs, attract new business, and play nicely. Those were the exact words of the plan, play nicely. Sounds very simple, and it is. I think it was intentionally simple. It was intentional and purposely put forward to be a very simple, elegant plan. A plan that would last and stay in the test of time, would be adaptable. We had seen, again, in 2003, rapid economic change. They wanted to put in place an organization that could be mobile and agile in their effort to try to grow the economy. Each and every year, our individual tactics change. Our objectives change a touch, but always falling underneath these four guiding principles. One year, we may put more emphasis on business attraction than we do on entrepreneurship. Always have a strong push on supporting local business, but we may pull back on that collaborative piece or that big strategic objective idea. It just depends on what's taking place in the economy at that time. But throughout the 10 years, we've stayed true to this original, but again, I would describe as an elegant design that those founding board members had put together. So what does all that mean in practice then? So that's a very nice high-level plan, but what does it mean in practice? Let's walk through. In terms of supporting local business, this is fundamental. This is absolutely core to what we do. At Lakeshore Advantage, we meet with 200 plus companies each and every year. We get engaged with them deeply and try to understand where their business is trying to go, what barriers are they facing to their growth, and then how can we help? How can we remove barriers and to assist their growth? And I'm pleased to be able to say over the past 10 years, we've been able to help hundreds of companies across our community. Virtually every major expansion project you can think of, we've been able to assist, from agritech to Zeeland Farm Services and everything in between. Hundreds of companies, nameplate employers like Gentex, Herman Miller, Haworth, of course, small firms that are probably off the radar screen for many, including folks like Dutch Treat Salad and others who are just now growing and becoming more and more sizable employers in our community. Getting out and working with our existing client base is very similar to all of you working with your existing customers. None of you can grow if your existing customers are not growing, and the same is true for our local economy. We're not going to grow if our existing customers, our existing companies are not growing, and that's a bedrock of our organization, and it's impacted thousands of jobs these last 10 years. We've also gone about the work of developing and really fostering an entrepreneurial ecosystem. We wanted to make sure we were developing the next wave of high-end, high-potential entrepreneurs, and we put forth a great deal of effort in this front. We've opened 2 incubators over the years, one in Zeeland, one in Holland. We've launched $1 million seed capital fund of private sector money to invest in early-stage companies. We've done a good deal of business coaching and mentoring, aligning some of our more experienced business leaders with early stage companies. We even launched a program called Momentum, which was the precursor to Start Garden now in Grand Rapids with sort of fingers into greater West Michigan. See Amanda Chaco, who was once on our team and took off to go help run Start Garden. She really was a catalyst for us at that time. But some really good things have taken place on the entrepreneurial side. And in fact, the best way to measure this, more than the number of job creation or more than the number of early stage startups, frankly, I think the best measure of the entrepreneurial ecosystem taking hold here in our community is the fact that now the private sector is stepping in. You can drive through our region now and look and find private sector incubator space, whether it's the Baker Loft facility, and if Seth Getz is here, he's opened up an incubator, a private sector run incubator there. The Colonial Clock building in Zeeland, where our offices are at, is practically a full-scale incubator as well. So frankly, over the next year or so, you're going to see us scale back some of the incubator space because the private sector now has found a market, is making it work. That's exactly what we want to see. That's exactly what we want to see. We want to see us sort of identify an opportunity, pursue it for a stage, and hope to see the private sector step in, which is what we're seeing happen here. And it's pretty exciting to watch. We've also done a good deal of work on business attraction. Frankly, the first 5 or 6 years of the organization, we did not. We did not emphasize this, in part because we had to make sure, first and foremost, our existing customers were engaged, our existing customers were growing, and that they had trust and confidence in us to make some referrals our way. The best way for any of you here to get a new client is to have an existing customer make that referral. Same is true for economic development. The best way for us to find new companies to enter this market is to get that referral from an existing company. And that took us a while. It took us years to kind of build up that trust and confidence within the business community. And now, today, we're getting referrals like we've never seen before. Today, we're working with 2 Korean companies, a Swedish-based company, a Netherlands-based company, 4 international prospects, high probability prospects, all coming to us by way of customer or existing company referrals. And that's the way it needs to happen. So for all of you here, please help keep that pipeline going. That's how we're going to continue to add new investment, new opportunities to this community. We have had some major wins, too, on the business attraction side. In the heart of the downturn, when we were shedding jobs left and right, we were able to attract a call center, a type of facility that can open up in 30 days and hire hundreds of people. And Novo 1 on the south end of town today employs 500 people. Certainly the battery plants, both Johnson Controls and LG Chem, with their $600 million worth of investment and 400 people between the 2 facilities, is a big win. And OMT, the German-based company, if you've driven James Street lately, you'll see they've already expanded 3 times in their 7 years here and are approaching 200 new positions, new employees. So we've had some big wins. We've had some construction as a result, and it's added additional sort of dynamic element to our community and to our economy. And this last one, play nicely. Frankly, it took me a little while to get my head around this, because when I hear play nicely, I think maybe weak or passive, and I don't know that anybody would describe Lakeshore Advantage that way. But really what it boils down to is an early recognition by those founding board members that economic development is not something that can be done alone. Economic development is a team sport, and it requires all kinds of engagement and all kinds of participation from folks in this room and hundreds of others that couldn't be here this morning. Now, there are economic development groups across Michigan and across this country that have a leader that would pound the table and scream and berate and belittle and try to cajole people to do things through intimidation, but that's not our style as an organization. It's certainly not our style as a community. And this was an early recognition by our board that we needed to be purposeful about collaborating. And we do this in ways throughout the organization. When we're trying to attract a new company to this market, we engage everybody, and we don't just hold that client to ourselves and don't disclose who they are and what they want to do. We open it up. We trust our partners immensely. So for example, when we're recruiting a company like LG Chem, 65 people from across our community had direct contact with that company from start to finish. In the economic development arena, that's unheard of. That just doesn't happen. We do it in part out of necessity. We've got a small team, and so that's a way for us to make it look and feel like we're bigger. So we play that game a little bit. But part, we don't have the answers. We don't know what the electrical demands are going to be or how to meet them. We know to put them in touch with the right people at the Zeeland or Holland BPW. We don't know what the load-bearing capabilities of that particular site would be. So we get a firm like Driesinger to come out and help do the testing. We can't lay out a building on the property, so we call up a building contractor and ask them to help us lay out a spot for them so the company doesn't just see a cornfield. We can give them a drawing that shows how their building will look and feel on that site. Little things, 65 little things all added together make a difference. That team approach is important. It also helps us on our major sort of out-of-the-box projects. You know, you don't have the ability to convert an empty lab by Pfizer into a research center to Michigan State University by yourself. It takes an incredible teamwork effort to make that happen. You don't launch an innovation training center like New North on your own. It takes teamwork to pull that together. So this purposeful, play nicely mindset, again, is not meant to be we're going to be passive, we're going to be weak, we're going to be just taking what comes. It means together, play nicely together, everybody here, we can get far more accomplished. And I think that's what we've seen over these last 10 years. So what does that mean? So what does that whole plan mean in action? What is the return on investment been these last 10 years? I'm extremely proud to be able to stand up here and present that we've been able to assist, all of us, everyone here in this room, through the efforts of Lakeshore Advantage and others, we've been able to assist the creation of 10,000 new jobs and $2.7 billion of new investment. There's other communities would love to be able to have this kind of result. Other communities, thank you. Now these are numbers every other community would love to have. They'd love to be able to stand up here and report that kind of progress, that kind of results. It has been an incredible run. It hasn't been without our hiccups, of course. In the downturn, we certainly faced some challenges, but over the course of 10 years, working hard each and every day, everybody here working to try to better this community, it's resulted in serious jobs. And it goes well beyond the numbers. I think sometimes we get so caught up in stats, whether it's the unemployment rate or the number of new jobs, this, that, and the other, and we forget for a moment that 10,571 new jobs, there's a person, right? That's not just a number, those are people. Those are real people. Some of our coolest days at Lakeshore Advantage is we have random people come into our door and say, you know what, my son just got a job at this company that you guys helped, or my daughter just got a job, my cousin is here, my neighbor. Those are cool, cool days. It reminds you that it's not just random numbers added up together to reach a sizable 10,000 figure. There's people, there's families behind each and every one of those numbers. And when we talk about social programs and trying to help people, in my estimation, there's no better way to help anybody than to help them get a full-time job. It solves so many problems for that person. It solves so many problems for that family if they can have a steady paycheck, a steady job, and take pride in their work. And we offer that here in this community, and it's represented by the jobs we're talking about here today. So I do want to quickly just recognize our staff. There's a lot of work that goes into this number. I get to stand up here and have glowing introductions from folks like Larry. But I do want to recognize our team that's here today. They do all the heavy lifting for us. So if they would just stand up and if you could recognize them. Christine Powers, Jennifer Lenart, Janine Maudlin, Bruce Sisler, and Bruce Adair. We have Angela Huseman on our team now as well. She's out of town at a trade show. We also have our summer intern, Lindsay Bieri. If anybody's interested in an all-star talent that's coming onto the labor force the next year or so, Lindsay, wave. Honestly, she's a rock star. You should find a way to bring her onto your team. The best, we've had some great interns over the years. Lindsay stands up with the best of them. So please help me recognize the team. And I would like, it's impossible to do this, but I would like to take maybe the next hour and a half to go through the room and single out everybody that's helped us along the way. As I look into the audience, I see at each table there's a handful of folks who've been able to participate directly in our work at Lakeshore Advantage. And I hope when we report these kind of figures that you can take some pride and ownership in this. I hope you walk out of here today knowing that you've played a strong role in helping driving our economy forward. So thank you. So that's history. If you sit around one of our board meetings, you'll know very quickly they say, that's great, now what? What's next? Just like when we started 10 years ago. And so that was the first question. We're doing a little bit of a celebratory tour this year, but by all means, we're not stopping. There's more work to do. So I want to talk a little bit about what's next. What do we need to accomplish together to make things happen? But before we get into what's next, I want to make sure we set the stage and understand we are a community that's working from a position of strength. We are not a community that's facing a massive deficit situation. We don't have white elephant problems to deal with. We don't have massive, massive problems. We have challenges. We have issues that we'll talk about. But we certainly are working from a position of strength. This is a great community. We've seen our downtowns, both in Zeeland and Holland, continue to be rejuvenated and redeveloped. We've got some great assets in our schools. And we get to live where other people have vacationed all summer long. We get to stay here, we all have to pay our mortgage, I suppose, but otherwise we get to play without having to pay some of those tourism fees all the time. So it's a great place to live where others get to vacation, so we have that advantage. On the job front, we clearly have an advantage. You take a look at the Great Lakes and just sort of run your finger along the coast and try to identify a better job market on the water than this. Chicago certainly, and then it starts to get pretty slow. We're right there in terms of living in the Midwest, living on the water. You're hard pressed to find another job market like you see here. And over the last few years, we've recovered to where we're now once again looking at an unemployment rate below the national average, well below the state average. From 2010 to 2011, we were the fastest growing job market in the country. From 11 to 12, we were 13th, and today we continue to be one of the leading growth markets in the country. As a percentage of job growth here, we continue to lead the state, certainly, and among the leaders in the country. We've seen a robust, rapid recovery here. Great place to live, great job market today. As we stand, or as we sit here, as you guys sit here this morning, there's over 1,000 jobs available in a 15-mile radius. If you go to Indeed.com and look at that, there's 1,000 jobs available. So the job market remains very, very hot. These last 10 years have also offered us an opportunity to continue to diversify our economy. When I first came to town 9 years ago, there was the talk of this sort of dual system, this dual economy of auto supply and office furniture, and those two elements throughout the years sort of helped balance and avoid some of the major cycles that other parts of Michigan and other parts of the Midwest had to suffer through. And it's true, we continue to have those two assets, but the last 10 years have shown a couple things to happen. Our food processing industry, and we've always had an element of food processing in West Michigan, but it has really gone to another level. These last 10 years, we've seen incredible growth from companies like Boar's Head, Request Foods, Quincy Street, Sara Lee, which is now Hillshire Farms, Hudsonville. You could go on and on and on. The dairy plants up in Coopersville even. We've seen incredible investment, incredible job growth in our food industry, so much so that now it is almost on par from an employment standpoint with auto and office furniture. It's sort of that third element to our economy that helps diversify it. It's been an incredible run, incredible growth, and as the food companies will tell you, you don't always need to buy a car, you don't always need to buy a chair, but you always have to eat. So it's a nice industry for us to be a part of. We've also seen the new battery industry come onto the scene. Now certainly there have been some headlines or two that we can talk about in the questions if you like, but the fact remains we have $600 million of new investment from two global enterprises that both want to be global #1 in that industry. They both remain optimistic behind the scenes. I just wish they would say it publicly a little bit more. But they are very much adding to the diversification of our economy. Very high-end technology, very strong talent that they've been able to attract from around the world that is helping our community become more diverse, our economy to become more diverse, and also helping to bring that kind of talent pool that ultimately they may leave work at Johnson Controls and LG and work at some of your companies. So to be able to attract that talent here, bring new high-end talent to this community is a real asset for all of us. And it's something that I think is going to pay strong dividends going forward. So we are coming from a position of strength. We are a community that has strong assets, but we always have opportunities to get better, that what next kind of question. And at Lakeshore Advantage right now, and our 10th anniversary, of course, is a time to go back and revisit the plan, revisit our goals and objectives, and we're going through that process with our board right now. We've got a laundry list of opportunities to pursue, and there's two that I want to share with you this morning. And these two are ones that I think we all can work on together. They're clear barriers to our growth. We've been on quite a run from a job standpoint, but there's these two in particular. I think the smart folks in this room can think of solutions and can help participate in the solution, if you will. The first one, whether you realize it or not, we simply don't have available industrial buildings today. If you're in the market for a 30,000 square foot building and you want to continue to grow here and you can't wait for new construction, good luck. We simply don't have it. Now you see a lot of, sort of rent signs or commercial for rent signs around town, but those are largely for our retail space, the strip centers that are dotting sort of some of our corridors. But if you drive into our industrial parks, I challenge you to try to find a for sale sign or a for lease sign. We don't have them. We don't have them. Even buildings that we might intuitively think, boy, there's space there at the Lifesavers plant, there's hardly any cars there, there's space at the Hart and Cooley plant. It's not true. Those plants, as I understand it today, the Lifesavers plant is 100% filled. The Hart and Cooley facility is about 90% filled. We don't have space in the old, big, hulking facilities that you might think are available. And if you dig in and you drive deeper into the industrial parks, you will not find the industrial space. So what that means for us, our companies are growing. If you dig into our business intelligence report, which is I'm light on data today, more on story. Everybody should have a copy of this at your table. If not, they'll be handed out on your way out. At Lakeshore, we try to provide sort of unique data insights into our economy. And if you dig into the reports that we put together, you'll find that our companies are growing. 3 out of 4 companies are reporting their desire to expand in the next 3 years. 3 out of 4 of our industrial companies are looking to expand. And they're all sort of our bread and butter, mom and pop operations. They want to grow, and those firms tend to grow in 20,000 foot, 30,000 foot chunks. We don't have the space today, and many of them don't have the time to wait for new construction. If you get a call today that says, can you make this, can you process this, can you assemble that, chances are if you don't have existing space in your building, your answer will have to be no, unless you're willing to go to another place. And I don't think anybody here wants that. I think we want to retain those companies, retain that growth as best we can, and that's going to take people looking very hard at building an industrial spec building. If you're into real estate investment, if you're into the real estate business at all, and you haven't looked at this market, I'd encourage you to do so. We have a shortage of supply on the industrial side, and I'm hoping we can see some private sector folks step in and fill this void. So take a hard look, run your own numbers. Bankers, maybe be a little bit more aggressive on your evaluation of spec building, but we need this type of space if we're going to retain the growth that we've enjoyed these last 3 years. If not, it's signaling that we can't retain this growth, that we're not going to be able to capture as much of it as we would like. If we miss this level of growth, that means we miss the investment in technology. That means we'll miss the new hires, Little League sponsors, chamber members, you name it. All of that falls out when those companies move to a different location. We've all seen it happen before. We don't want to see it happen again. So please, take a hard look at industrial spec building. On the relative scale, that one's easy. That's brick and mortar investment. We can do that. This one too is within our grasp. It's just a little bit more complex. It's a little bit more nuanced. It's a little bit more challenging, but it's definitely worth the pursuit. We are moving into a time period where we're going to see more retirements than we see graduates. More retirements than graduates. If you just run the math, that means our labor pool will be shrinking. And if you don't buy into that, just think of Europe today. Europe has seen declining population. Their social programs encourage rapid retirements, and with a declining population, declining number of graduates, more people retiring, you've seen a decline in the European economy these last 10 years, triggered by a lot of factors, of course, a lot of factors impacting that, but ultimately, it's a numbers game, it's a population game, it's a workforce game that's driving many of their challenges in Europe. And we're about to face that across this country, we're about to face that here in this region. Now we have the luxury, we still remain one of the more fast-growing population centers in the Midwest, so we're not in a decline from a population standpoint, but we have to be careful here. It's no longer good enough for folks just to sort of coast through school. We have to make sure our young people are better prepared and better trained to contribute to the companies in our community. If we do that, then we'll be in a position to help see our companies continue to grow. But we can't afford to have our students go through school or not finish school. Certainly if a student does not finish school, their future is not good. Their future is not bright by any stretch. They're looking at an unemployment rate that's 5 times the norm. They're looking at wages and income growth that's a small fraction of what otherwise you could achieve with even a high school diploma, let alone some associate's degree or full 4-year degree. So this community is taking part in a massive new initiative called Connections, launched by the Intermediate School District. I see Jason smiling in the back. He's a real catalyst for this. You might recall back in May, Karen McPhee from the ISD stood up here and spoke about the Connections program and how for the first time in really a few decades, our business leaders are coming together and engaging with the schools purposely and deeply to make a strong connection for students to connect their learning to the real world. If you're sort of a disinterested student trying to figure out why you're studying math, why you're studying grammar, it's hard to make a connection to how that impacts your life when you don't have any frame of reference for what the future might hold. So the Connections program does a number of things, and it started just yesterday. This year, for the first time in decades, we have students purposely going out in after-school programs 2 days a week from 3:30 to 5, engaging with some of our top employers and getting the experience of what it means to be an engineer. What's it mean to be a production supervisor, a welder, a marketing analyst, a financial consultant, you name it. They're going to get exposed to all kinds of career opportunities. And with that insight, with that vision to the future, hopefully that means they'll go back to the classroom and have a greater impact and have a higher degree of success and ultimately get that diploma and hopefully go on to get some college training beyond. If we do that and do that well, we're going to have a profound impact on the workforce in this community and have a major competitive advantage going forward. So this year there are 105 students in that pilot program that are doing the after-school program. There are 6,000 students between grades 6 and 12 across 8 school districts in this region. You name it in this region. It's Saugatuck, it's Hamilton, it's Holland, it's Black River, it's Holland Christian, it's Zeeland, it's West Ottawa. Did I miss anybody? Christine, Jason, did I get them all? All right. So if you're in those school districts, which all of us here are, find a way to engage. 6,000 students this year that are looking for folks like you to come into their classroom and give them a 101 on business, give them a 101 on what you do within your company. How does their education relate to what you do in your business? Volunteer to go do that. Host students in your building. Let them come through. They just need to see where could they work someday, and how does their schooling impact that? Host a teacher. If you stop and think about it, most teachers go through high school, they go through college, they get a teaching job. Even teachers rarely have an opportunity to be inside of a company like yours to understand themselves what they teach, how it relates to business. This is a great opportunity. It's a terrific program that the ISD and the area superintendents have really embraced and taken forward in a big, big way. But it's only going to work if we do what we always do, and that is come together, work together, and make this a purposeful drive for this community. 6,000 students need impact or need connections to companies. We need your help. We need your engagement. And if we do that, we'll make a big impact and make sure this economy can grow and thrive going forward. So it's a great program. Please reach out to our team who is here. Reach out to the intermediate school district. We want to engage lots of folks in this program. Let me close with a thank you. 10,000 new jobs, $2.7 billion of new investment. It's been a good, strong 10 years. We've had some success, we've had some hiccups, but by and large, we fought through those together, and it doesn't happen without this group. It doesn't happen without an engaged community. 250 people at an early bird breakfast it's crazy. Other communities don't have that kind of participation, don't have that kind of engagement. So I ask of you, please, let's continue this. Let's keep pushing forward together. If we maintain that support, if we maintain that commitment from everybody here, we're going to have another strong 10 years to report in 2023. Thank you.